All right. Welcome back, everybody. We got Barncast coming at you with another turn zero, turn one strategy guide, kind of tailored to a specific crisis. If you're familiar with any of these, we've done them for Guardians prior to this, and in the last two videos that I've done or released prior to this, we did kind of an introduction to some of the theory crafting behind the Mawneto list or Mystique list, which is really more or less I created it back when the gems were still restricted, and we needed to figure out ways to kind of help Magneto regain some relevance in the MCP world because he had really fallen out of favor. So we went over some of the basic introductions of the theories behind the team, some of the ways that you can craft a roster and a squad, and how to play a little bit kind of generally throughout games, right? Um, Latest video I released was just basically I don't know, an hour and 20-minute long diarrhea spewing of the out of the mouth love affair slash verbal manifesto regarding the ever loved and never forgotten and always borderline omnipresent Space Maw. And in that video, I realized I was probably a little bit more disorganized and a little bit more all over the place than normal. So I promised in that video that we'd be a little bit more organized and a little bit back to maybe doing what these the series and things should be, which is focusing on turn zero and turn one tactics. So if you're a newer player to MCP or even like a seasoned player, part of the things that you'll know or that you should know is that figuring out your crises and which squads to bring into which matchups and certain ways to play things or other different little tactics, it can be like the a real divider in experience or skill. And so a lot of these videos are kind of meant to help bridge those gaps, give people something to kind of build off of and kind of maybe wrap their mind around and to see if they can get their opponent to maybe allow them to do or to kind of make possible for themselves. So, excuse me, a little bit of a sip of the coffee. It's early Sunday morning, so wanted to get in a video before football came out. Go Hawks. Anyhow, uh, and today we're going to be going over the research station. And this is something that I intend to run specifically with Magneto and Maw together at every threat level. And if you remember the introduction to the list, you can run a Magneto Maw together at every threat level. And I think you can feel pretty confident on this crisis with any team. But here's your 15. That's obviously very strong. This is another 15. This is another 15. Or excuse me, not Rogue, not another 15, but another 15, right? You got your 2-4 threats between Colossus and Rogue that can move you up to 16. They both offer a lot of durability but different strength, and they can both do a lot of great things with power. Two different 5 threats, one extremely durable, one extremely hard hitting and ranged, right? So one much speedier, one that kind of struggles with action economy. So they serve very different purposes. And then, of course, you've got the uh, in my opinion, one of the top characters in the game here with Mr. Toad, um, who's really just a do-it-all scoring machine of just pure annoyance and or awesome if he's on your side. So it's really easy to start sliding him into these rosters as early as 17, 18, a lot of different places because of just his flexibility and just how great he is. So when we're talking these kind of Mawneto lists, I've mentioned to some people in chat that the concern, because if you're a Magneto team and you're trying to run this Magneto thing, because like all of our tactics cards are kind of built towards keeping Magneto in the fray, right? And he's got such powerful cards. Again, Refraction and Asteroid M are just great, and we know Shush is great. And so when we come into like any matchup, we know we're bringing this, we're bringing this, we're bringing this, we're probably bringing that. So that's 4 cards. Our last card's typically a tech spot. And that's when you're going to have to be able to make a read off of your opponent or the situation to see what dictates what, right? And, when you're playing something like Research Station, which, in my opinion, should be a secure, I know some of the devs and folks have come out on the record and said, well, if you think about it as a secure, it doesn't really work. And it's like, well, Mayor Fisk works. Like, it's not really ever being extracted. I don't get it. But because of that, like, it's really valuable for some of these more brawly, not so fast lists that can really take advantage of beating on people because they have to stand around next to it. Uh, and because it does move when you win it, you can start doing what a lot of people have done, and we'll get into that here in a minute, later, well, in a few minutes later in the video. But you start moving it a little bit more towards the back line, and you don't try to score it over there. You just try to castle up with it and sit in your little corner, which is what we're gonna really show you guys in this video. And uh, the reason that I wanted to start with this crisis, right? For anybody that's not familiar, this is essentially an E-shaped crisis, but it just has the one point in the very dead center of the board, and it's in the center point, the exact center of the board, and it just the only time you can move it is when you fully secure it. Now, I'm going to show you that with the way that this list can be constructed, that it's going to be basically really hard for your opponent to ever get more than one or two models on their early game. And once that thing kind of starts moving a little bit more into your corner, it's going to create a lot of problems for anybody because now they're having to play into a Magneto team, and he's not having to play into them. If you've played any Magneto games, that's pretty much like an ideal situation, right? So if we bring our tactics cards like Indomitable and Shush and Asteroid M and other things that can, and even Psychic Shield device for the Cosmic Ghost Riders that exist out there, and other things, right? If we bring all this stuff, or even No More Mutants to just stop throws, or we have the Space Gem on Maw to move Magneto around, he's not going to be moved throughout a game if you're doing things right. You should be able to pick people off that can come into him and really mess him up. People like Bill, for example, can really mess Magneto up if you give him an opportunity. The beauty of this list is that when people are having to move into you, and you're like 3 wide or 4 wide at higher threat levels, you're probably having priority. So in this case, we're going to be playing against an opponent that brought out mutant madmen. And the reason I wanted to bring this crisis out is because, in my opinion, this shape is kind of a worst case scenario for Magneto. And the fact that it's a pay to flip is pretty bad news for Magneto, too, because that means that opponents can kind of run away. They can flip a point and run away, and Magneto is just not fast, so he's not going to be great at running around on these points. However, because of the power of Research Station, or really any of these extracts, and the reason why if I ever get Prio, more often than not with this Mawneto Mystique team, I'm taking my extracts. Now, anybody that's ever played Brotherhood seriously, more competitively, is going to know about the play on Senators. I wasn't initially bringing this on my list, but it's just too good to pass up. So if I happen to pop Senators, yeah, I'm bringing Mystique. I'm putting Juggernaut out there. And I'll even put Maw out there to kind of be a poor man's Hulk. They all work. I grabbed 2 Senators from my opponent's side, and now what are you going to do about it? Even grabbing 1 from your opponent's side can be devastating because you're getting a 4-2 extract advantage. And a team that has to come and play into you when you're able to castle up with all this defensive tech and all these great cards and everything, like they're going to have a bad time, right? And that's going to be a very fast scoring game. So this is pretty busted for them, and we'll go over this at another point because it's just such a strong crisis. But Deadly Legacy Virus just super low scoring. So again, I'm going to be trying to take extracts of these guys. Now we're going to pretend that I got Research Station, of course, and I'm going to show you that how this can work. Now, opponent's going to take a look at this list. If they've seen any videos, they're going to know what you're going to be running. It doesn't matter because they're just really strong. So we've got on this particular crisis setup either 15 or 18. Okay. And so for anybody that can't remember, this is Mutant Madmen. This is the physical pay to flip that is a B shape. So B shape, very bad news for Magneto. This particular shape and the fact it's a pay to flip is bad news for Magneto because it's the widest possible, hardest, most spread out points on the map. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't matter with the way that we're gonna play this. Okay. All right. That being said, let's just say that opponent takes a look at this and they want to give themselves more options or more tech into us. They go at 18. Okay. Depending on what I'm looking at or playing into with a list, okay, I'm already super comfortable with this and this. We'll show you just how dominant they can be on covering a center line of the board, but it's mostly a Maw thing. And before we move on to the other model selections here, I want you to know that I'm probably not going to end up doing like a Research Station Guardians video because I am running Space Maw, or if you're running a Cosmic Ghost Rider instead of a Space Maw, the same theory applies, and the same sort of devastating singular ability to have one model just completely ruin somebody that comes to the middle of the board. Like once you see this here, or if you've seen the Maw video, you'll know why he's going to be so dominant on this crisis, and how like I don't need to show you this in Guardians or versus Brotherhood or vice versa because it works basically anytime you put these type of characters on the board. So that being said, we're playing at 18. Opponent has chosen threat. Now, when they're going to be choosing their board edge, I would not, if I'm them, recommend this side because I'm getting access to a size 4 here and a size 3 here, and there's a whole bunch of this stuff. If they flip it around, that might be a little bit more ideal, but they might not want to be messing around with, having a model over there that could have cover because that B shape's going to land right on top of it, and they might want it themselves to break up line of sight or something else, right? Let's see if I was right. Okay, so they're not going to be able to break up line of sight, but they'll definitely get cover if they end up standing around up there. And if you'll notice, it's going to be very hard for any of my models to get cover if they don't have Magneto around. So there is potentially that advantage for them, but um, again, they've given potentially a free line to deploy out of here. So this would be an ideal board edge if you had to choose it. If it's me and I'm choosing threat level here, I'm probably just going to play at 15 because it's just busted. And what I mean by that is like you just run Mystique. This list has Deception. So there's your fourth tech right there. So you just go Deception, right? Magnetic Refraction, cool. It literally can take you like 10 seconds. I would run this against any list in the game at 15 on this crisis. I don't even care what the opponent is. It's just very powerful. Okay. Um, but for the sake of interest, right? We'll just pretend that it's not going to be at 15. We'll be at 18 because they're going to want more tools. But if I was choosing, I would choose 15 because it's busted. So what does that give us? Okay. It gives us Quicksilver and Pyro. These are both exceptional options there. And yes, I think we do want to run Mystique. She's a long mover. If things start going sour, she can get around the board pretty quickly and, help rotate these things around. With the strength of this Magneto and Maw team being within the two dual 6 threats, your other ancillary characters don't really need to do much other than run around and score points, right? So Mystique can just be free to just run around and do whatever she wants if you bring her. Now, if you don't bring her at 18, and let's clear out Deception there, because it's not an every game requirement, you open up options, and we get to, start talking about guys like our boy Toad here. So, in order to kind of understand which models it is that we need to take, we need to kind of understand like what the opponent matchup is and what the crisis is going to dictate and what makes it possible for us, right? So, first and foremost, these roll off a physical defense. So you roll 4 dice, and again, every hit crit wild, that's going to allow you to take it over. Now, if it's being contested, you're going to need 2 successes. So you ideally are going to want to have more dice, right? So for the people that fall within that range for us, we're looking at Rogue and Colossus. They both have 4. Pyro's only got 3. He's only got 3. She's only got 3. Toad's got 3. Okay. So if I were to put a team like, Rogue or Colossus and Toad, I'm going to have basically 7 dice to roll for these points, or 1 extra dice compared to what I would have with Mystique and one of the other 3 threats, right? So that's kind of appealing because, again, I don't need these models to do much. Now, the other thing that's actually really appealing about this is that it's a B shape in and of itself. So anytime that you're playing on a B shape, I think there are 2 things that you want to be looking for. You're going to wanting to have like a ranged attack that is at least range 4 or farther. So Obviously, he qualifies. She qualifies, but if we add her in there, we get up to 17, and we can't really do much there. So she's a little bit out of the picture. So, do we have any other four ranges? Yes, Pyro. Okay. And then the other thing you want to be looking for is charges. And she's got a one. So with that charge or that four range attack, right, you can sit on the front side of this and then move yourself across. Um, so let's get these things. Yeah, we already dropped out. And we'll start showing you some of those measurements here later, but that's kind of the theory behind it, right? So if it's me on this, I'm probably a little bit torn. Toad can run around just as well as Mystique or Pyro can. The ability to bring in Deception on this, really powerful. I don't think I'm going to get the best out of Quicksilver because there isn't an extract and I can't use his Can I Borrow That? Pyro being able to shoot across and then start rooting and firewalling people and incinerating them as they come running in. When he can kind of be stationary, I think he can be really devastating. On the flip side of things, like, being able to send Rogue out in front and just, have her occupy people or having like another kind of sturdy model to help you hold down that researcher as it moves to the place where you want it to be. And we'll show you that spot here in a second. It is also really valuable because she's got damage reduction, she's got all that stuff. I don't think Colossus is the way to go here. So I'm kind of torn between two variations, okay? And it really just depends on what it is that you're going up against. If you've got a team like Web Warriors or somebody that has like good defensive tech or needs power to kind of open up some of the things, Rogue's a great matchup into them. They can't really hurt her that badly, and she drains them out like crazy. They can't really do much of anything. Um, if you're coming up against a team that's got, models that are just super durable, let's say you've got like a Kingpin team, which probably wouldn't be ideal on this now that I think about it, obviously, but uh, maybe like a Hellfire team, one of these like really durable teams that might dare to try to bring up multiple members of a team, maybe two or more, onto this midpoint. If you think that there's a possibility that they might dare to put two models up there, and when I say dare, you're probably going to afford to activate Maw or Magneto last. And what that's going to allow you to do is you can put two models in the center of the board and be really comfortable with knowing that, well, they're not going to kill my Magneto, who's going to have cover if you pop your refraction, or they're not going to kill my Rogue, right? If they only get one shot into her, and they're not going to kill my Maw because, he's going to be my second to last activation of the round, and he's going to have 6 defense versus, their 4 or 5 dice attack. It'll be fine. So, and if they put somebody there sooner, and we'll show you this, they're going to be in trouble. So it kind of depends, but there are going to be some lists that might dare to do it or might dare to do it early. If you think that's possible, then I think you want Mystique, and I think you want Deception. Okay, being able to pull a model that comes running up there early can just be devastating. Uh, it's Deception's not so great on this because it's a pay to flip. So by the time they run up and flip the point, they don't really care if they get pulled off. They're still scoring that VP. Yes, you can pull them off the research station, but it's not as great as pulling somebody off that's holding an extract, like a hammer or something, and then pulling him to your team and being able to pick that up, right? That thing's still going to be there. But, if it looks like they're the sort of team that can pull off of that, then, or try to stack multiple models up, if they're going to dare to do that, then I think you bring it. But we're going to pretend that we're playing against a roster that just doesn't want that smoke. And most people and most players probably shouldn't. And so we kind of get left in a weird spot with our last TTC, right? Honestly, I don't really think this is a terrible card under most circumstances. And I'm actually fairly confident in my ability to bring it. Um, But if you really want to, and you don't want to bring PSD, eventually somebody's going to potentially have the ability to push somebody, I would imagine. If you don't get a last tactics card here, not the end of the world. I would still say that having Rogue on the table is more valuable than making sure that you've got an extremely viable, or at least semi-viable fifth TTC. Okay. Um, Now, this is what I think we run. Okay. Toad, he can run around and do whatever he wants all game. It doesn't matter. He's an extra body. If you need to, you can run him in early and he can go up and get blasted on the researcher. It doesn't matter. His job is to score points and just be a nuisance. Which, believe it or not, he can still do on this. If people want to run around and try to kill him, that's fine. Okay. So when we're deploying on this, what we want to be doing, first and foremost, is we want to set up the number one more devastating thing that we can. Okay. And I'm going to show you this real briefly, but essentially, the reason why we want to deploy Maw in the direct center of the board is because of this ability to space gem himself forward and then double tap any model there. Now, the other reason this is really bad for an opponent is because there's big terrain right there too, okay? So when he does that gem forward onto a midline, he can cover the whole thing. There is no place that an opponent model can go to where they'll be safe. We'll just pull out some random different sized bases to kind of illustrate some different things this game, maybe. Pull out Hulk. We'll pull out, I don't know, Voodoo. All characters that I like beating up on. Uh, Go with poor old Miles because I don't like him either. Oh, actually, you know what? No, I just like Storm even more. We'll go with that. I actually don't beef on Miles too much. He just ends up being a priority kill. All right. So let's say that Voodoo's decided that he wants to be a hard ass, right? So take that out of there. He moves himself here within range 1. Cool. So Voodoo's there. Obviously, that's covered. You can see the green light up, but if you're ever doing measurements, otherwise, if you take a look there, you can see how much is left over. There's literally zero way, right? So that's going to be 2 6-dice attacks in him. Yes, he has great Mystic defense. That's fine. The whole point of this is that I'm rolling 6 dice. I need a wild trigger. If I move you off that point, you're irrelevant, right? If I get it on the first one, odds are with Maw, I might be halfway tempted just to walk up there myself because most teams are not going to be able to endanger him, okay? Now, if I just do that with Maw, move up there, I'm going to start out with 4 power. It's going to cost 2. Single attack takes you back to 3. And so now I can throw this size 3 truck at this model that I've moved off, right? Everybody gains a power. I don't care if he braces it, yada yada. And then, like I was saying, you can just take your Maw up there, just go ahead and say, I dare y'all to come up on this point with me. The reason why that's going to be a problem is because if you deploy your rogue, nice and clever like, which I hope you do, because you can do something like this, and you can make it look like you're going to do different things, but you don't have to. You just put mags right here, and then you do yourself a little outside move here with Toad. Okay, that's what we're probably looking at. And you can move Rogue around, Toad around any you want. You know, Toad's got Wall Crawler, Rogue's got Flight. Doesn't matter. The reason that I like Rogue in some of these kind of like middle spots, or Toad in these kind of off-center deployments, is because you have options. Okay. But more importantly, like I said, if anybody comes up to that center board, Maw's going to throw this terrain. Magneto can move up and start throwing that terrain. Rogue's going to have power. Now, when you do these kind of off-center deployments, again, I've mentioned this a lot, but you get options. If this is a C shape, she can make it to that C shape. She can make it to the center of the board. The reason that this is important for Rogue is that if I need to get another body on that point, Not only am I getting another body on the point, but she's also making an attack because her charges come online. Now, if she happens to generate power with that, now we got mutant absorption going on. We're setting up potentially for somebody to get Magneto activation and not having brace online for the first bit of it. Nasty little combinations, right? Or you just take Rogue up there, you double move, drain them out. That way they don't have brace. World is your oyster once that first throw comes online, right? So that's what I'm saying. And this is why when you're playing against some of these, like some high level players, okay, if they see that you've got a Maw or a Ghost Rider or even like a Thanos or a Deception, they just will not come to the center of the board this early. They will avoid it. Some of the more cagey players that know that they're going to have to work around this for like a round or two and believe in their ability to keep the scoring equal, they're not even going to contest it on round one. Now, to me, that's not a problem. Okay. And the reason for that is because of the way that this crisis in and of itself works. Okay. But the reason they're not going to come up to the center of the board is because of what Maw does for the team. And again, this can apply to either Guardians or any place you want to take your Maw. Works with the Cosmic Ghost Riders, all that other stuff. I never really know where I want to go with this construct. So I'm going to just, whenever it gets set down, I just make sure it gets unlocked. But what I want to be looking at is I want to be looking at, okay, if I move this thing around and I get Magneto ready for it on turn 2, right? If I win it on turn 1, which I'm confident that I will because of the reasons I'm showing, it's going to be moving to about here. So when I place my construct, I want to make sure that I'm in a position to be able to kind of use it as a backstop for Magneto. That way he's not getting thrown off of it too easy, and if he's getting thrown anywhere, he gets thrown forwards or something, right? Um, but I want to get that set up for this next round. So I think we probably go maybe something like probably around there with it. Okay. And ended up locking on me. I hate these things. I mean, I love them, and I love the fact they got the spawn mechanic programmed into it now. So can't bring up both of the movement tools there. But if I'm gonna have to eyeball this, which I am, make sure that I'm not doing an illegal placement. I'm feeling pretty good about Magneto being able to be backstopped there. I'm also feeling pretty good about his ability to get there on a double move, obviously, because he can get up to the middle point. He can get Space Gem, move once, and still get there. Feeling pretty good about that, but we'll just make sure. So, again, if you get opponents, they bring up multiple models, odds are, again, you're going to walk one of them off there. You just immediately go with Maw. Now, if you're running the Mystique version, they really can't come into the center of the board. They're going to have to start kind of daisy chaining their stuff forward. If they don't daisy chain stuff, they're just going to get pulled off it by deception. And then Magneto's going to bash them up and all that other stuff. Mystique's going to shoot them. You're just going to have a bad time. Okay? You're going to have a bad time. And if you're not running that, you can still set up things with people like Rogue or Juggernaut or Witch or these other range, Pyro, another range model, right? You get lucky, maybe you get 2 wilds with Maw. I mean, what are they going to do? Like, they're going to get double tapped by Pyro. I mean, at that point, I just start taking models off the board, et cetera, et cetera. So, regardless, more than likely, your team is going to be 4 to 5 wide. If you've already got priority, you're probably maintaining it into round 2. And that's really key because, again, they're only going to be bringing more than likely one model up here, and it's going to be their last activation. Okay. When you're able to activate like right at the beginning of round 2, and that model is like Magneto, the model that they brought up there is probably freaking dead. And they may be even KO'd if you just saved your Maw activation. If you're doing things, right, you just save Maw for last, or if they go up early, you just send Maw forward and just go decimate whatever goes there early, right? So if you've passed, you've passed, you've passed. You've got an opponent, maybe they come out there 5 wide, right? So that means you can afford to pass once, I believe, yeah. So I always end up doing like a when I'm counting up my prio, it's kind of sad. I have to do like I look at my mats and then I look across, right? So if I pass off this, right? Okay, I pass. This one goes, right? If I pass, this one goes. And then now I have to go, this one goes. Now I have to go, this one goes. Now I have to go, this one goes. So can't pass twice, right? At least I don't think so. Pretty early. Point is, you're gonna pass first out. Um, I guess we can show you the power that Magneto would be having to start out the game, and we'll fix Maws. But yeah, there's Mags' power, so you can pop refraction. If you don't have any to attack, just pop refraction and walk up. Give yourself the cover. You'll be fine. Um, you may be able just to sit behind this tractor too, but uh, it would depend on the angle. So if they're coming from an attack from this angle or from maybe like deploying here, might be okay, but it's going to be close. Anyhow, your first activation, you kind of want it to be the throwaway activation, right? So just pass up until the point to where you can't anymore. The first two things that your opponent's probably going to do is going to run here and run here. That's fine. I'll be honest with you. I don't even think that if we end up, if this goes even halfway well, which I think under most circumstances it does, you'll never take these points over unless Toad goes over and does it, or Rogue gets lucky or something, or it just this one, I don't know, right? Uh, it just yeah. So you take your Toad, and if it's me, I'm just gonna come over here and I'm gonna flip this thing. Now, I don't really intend to kind of keep him around onto it because I've got other plans for Toad. I want him to be able to be in a reactive position for these things. And honestly, if I can bait somebody to bring a model all the way to the other side of the board and try to flip my thing with these people sitting around, they can go ahead. It's a trap. And with this list, like a lot of lists that I run, I'll prioritize killing somebody if it means that I win the game that way. It's better than scoring out, like style points, right? Okay. Um, you may see like another model of theirs, right? Their second, or I'm sorry, the third activation be going. So yeah, it's be their third. They'd have two left. Jesus, yeah, very tired. Um, so they're you'd pass. Then you go. So their second model probably going to go here. If they don't come out to the center board, that's fine. Okay, we can live with that. I think more than likely what I do is one of two things. You can go up with Rogue, or you can go up with Maw. Now, personally, one of the things that I like doing is we can gem Magneto forward. That way, Magneto's got some action economy. And one of the other things that people tend to not really do a good job of appreciating, believe it or not, is Magneto's control. Okay, he can actually cover the vast majority of this. So if you take your Maw and activate him before Magneto, because like I said, there's always more than one way to skin a cat, right? You could do it like this, give Magneto a little bit more room, and then Maw just runs up to the center of the board. That's always an option. He's going to have 6 dice. They probably don't have the ability to do anything about him. The reason why that might be a good idea, and I'll show you, is that when you go and take your Maw, yeah, I think it only goes halfway onto that size 1, or that range 1 tool. So he's going to be out. Yeah, it's about halfway there. So one of the things that you might want to do with your Maw on his activation, because he just gemmed Magneto forward, right? Is before somebody runs up there, you take your Maw And let's see if this body blocking works. It did. Okay, so we'll just show you that real quick. Now, they want to start going up there and blasting on Maw. They are going into 6 defense. Every time that they take a shot at him, and most models and most teams are going to have to move once then do it. There might be some advanced R&D stuff. You might be playing against web warriors, and maybe you've got a Gwen out there that's going to impact web him and then try to pull him forward off the point if she doesn't get a chance to push him backwards, right? This is all fine because you can just walk Magneto up there. Every time that they're shooting at him, they're choosing to not be on the researcher. And they're choosing that they're not going to run over there and roll this, right? So odds are he's probably going to be fine. But you got to kind of know what your opponent can bring against you if you do this kind of really bold on their side type of thing. But the reason that you might want to consider doing that is because in order for Voodoo to get on the point now, right? And he can certainly get there, like we're not blocking it. But in order for him to get on the point, he has to go onto the sides and the ranges. That, I think that's going to be about perfect right there. Oop, a little bit, almost. There it is. Nope, almost. Come on, come on. Hey, all right, we will fix it. Good enough. All right. You'll notice that Magneto can't reach him, and I'm an idiot. Cool. So what do? Well, boy, I wish I would make these sort of mistakes when I'm into a video. I wish I would have thought of this sooner before I just kind of ventured out on this. All right, stick with the original Maw plan. We just go and send it up the middle. Dang, I thought I had that for sure. Super close, too. All right, to hell with it. One of the things that you could have done there with Maw is to make one attack. If you did, like I said, you move somebody off the point, great, right? So you want to do a medium move first. If you throw, even if there's nobody there, if you just have to double move up, that's not the end of the world. If you take like a Magneto and you walk up here and you throw a size 2 into a size 1, do we have one? Nope. That'd be a cool way to generate some extra power, do some stuff there. You can get creative with it. I'm just going to go with what I know works and try not to get too fancy anymore, not waste your guys' time doing idiotic things. So we've gone with our Toad activation there, and it's all about just playing for the waiting game. Again, most people are not going to come up here. If they do, take them off the table with Maw. But let's just save Maw for the last activation and not try to get fancy with crap. I'm sorry. Don't sleep too much. So we can run up Magneto. He can sit there, pop refraction. Now, in order for the opponent to win that researcher, somebody's got to come up. If they bring up somebody now because they're maybe trying to make sure they win the point, and if they're only 5 wide, if they spent this activation coming over here and then spending activation coming over there, they've now only got 3 models that can come up here to the center of the board. Okay, and odds are you're going to move one of them or KO one of them if they do with your Maw activation. So, and in order for them to do that, they're going to have to move a model up like now if they want to win it. If they don't want to win it, and if they don't move a model up now, you take your rogue, you can run her up there. At this point, they've only got 2 models left. Best thing they can do is tie. They probably won't do that because guess who's still sitting here? So they're not going to run up there. At that point, you start winning this thing out, and you can start setting up for the later rounds, right? You can start moving things around on the board. Now, if they do come up there early, that's when you just go up with Maw, right? We take our pot shot. If they do try to contest you on this and beat you, you take your pot shot, right? And you just see what happens. And a lot of times this isn't even about damage, but hell, if it does damage, we'll take it. Voodoo's defending with 6. Odds are he's not. Oh, wild trigger. Mission accomplished. Don't even care about the other results, right? Alright, hitting for 3. Let's just say he blocks it. Cool. Don't care. The work that they just put into that is gone now. And because I didn't do any damage, maybe I'm not compelled to attack him again. Maybe I just save the power, and I say to myself, we'll just walk up here. So I'd spent 2 for the gem, and generate 1 back from there, from the Black Tongue, and I say to myself, alright, we'll throw the size 3 truck, right? So that's power for here, here, here. Magneto had already spent for refraction, yada yada. Now he's back on 1 power, so he's got himself a brace online. And more importantly, Rogue's got a charge. So we've got 2 models there. They only have 2 activations, or maybe even 1 left. They can't win it, is the point. So if they come up there, and now they try to contest you and stop you from doing it, again, you can just take your Rogue, and this truck is, now gone, but we're going to leave it because of reasons. And bingo bango, right? Now she can double move up, and you just mutant absorb somebody there. If they're on 0 power, awesome. You just damage somebody without even having to give them any power in return. If they're on 1 power, just mutant absorb them. Or if you want to get crazy, and if they have like a defensive weakness, whether it be maybe physical or energy, choose the weaker of the 2. See if you can push some damage through. Maybe you get lucky. It's really up to you. So you can charge in, or you can just walk up and mutant absorb. It's a little bit riskier with the charge, and they might gain a little bit of power. But you might just be able to mutant absorb it off of them, anyhow. Either way, you're winning that point. And there are going to be 2 models right in front of your Magneto onto turn 2 that are going. One of them, maybe 2 of them are dead, depending on the threat level. If it's a 5-wide team, you could be looking at maybe 2 4 threats, a bunch of 3s, stuff like that. If there's a big old 5 threat out there, then Magneto just kills that. I'm confident in his ability to do that. He's going to have, this. Next round, he's going to start out with 4 power. He'll have 2 people within range 2, reroll any, right? Just real nasty stuff. And so you'll notice that I moved this researcher here, and assuming that Toad got the job done, which I'm sure he would, because, it's what little Toader does. And if he doesn't, whatever. Now, if they forego this, and they run over here and they get this point, I really don't care. I've scored 3 this round. They've scored 3 this round. My goal is just to take this researcher for next round and just start systemically getting it moved all the way back here to my spot. And so Toad, who's going to be sitting here on his, 1 power for this round, he's going to have 2 here within a second. You can afford to sit here and brawl with all these models, Magneto and all these folks, and just daze and do whatever you want. And either they deal with that or they don't, but you're going to be throwing terrain. Toad's going to have his power. He's going to have the ability to get within 1 of this and sit behind cover and all this other stuff. If he needs to, if he thinks that somebody might run across, he can always just hop back. He can get that. He just has so many options with this list, and you can still save, a Maw activation for later. They haven't generated any power really off of turn 1 or 2, and in many cases they've spent it. So the people that ran up to the center of the board, the ones that maintained their 1 power, right? Then Magneto just kills them, or et cetera, et cetera. You get a Hulk up there, just go into him as hard as you possibly can. Sure, you might daze your Maw, but he's going to regret it. Like, uh, and odds are he might not survive to see round 3 of the game. Um, so there's a ton of options there. I mean, I could go on and on, but really what you're trying to do is you're trying to force yourself and create opportunities for yourself to win this. It's easy to do with this list. This is probably the best research station setup. I think it's better than Guardians even. Um, Now, if you're stuck on something like demons, then maybe I give Guardians the edge there. In combination with this crisis. But if it's Gamma Researcher, I'd favor Magneto just about over anybody anymore, right? So it's a real good looking crisis for this team, and being able to slowly edge this thing over into a corner, even in a worst case scenario secure, where people are going to have this pay to flip that allow them the freedom to kind of run about and leave these points behind, knowing that they can kind of score them because our team is quote unquote slow and not really going to get over there. I mean, that's what this little bugger's for. But you know, they might try to collapse in on your team, but they're going to have action economy, and just a lot of people are not going to be able to do it well. These folks over here will have spent their power. They're not bypassing Maw. They're not charging in. They're not doing a lot of things more often than not. And regardless, they're going to be going down one model at the start of this round. Again, if they're 5 wide, you can daze somebody and maintain priority, right? Huge option to you there. And you're going to have priority. You pop refraction. You throw a bunch of terrain around. If your rogue ended last round on 0 power because she mutant absorbed somebody, I can guarantee you by the time that she's ready to activate again, she's already going to have 2 power. So her charge is online, mutant absorption's online. If you could just spend your entire time just standing next to a model and mutant absorbing them while attacking somebody else, you will make that model useless the entire game. She can be brutal when she's got a power supply and she literally has 2 models around her. Um, Big reason why I love her a little bit more than Apex in this list, because personally, and I've mentioned this kind of some of the other Brotherhood players in the the fan server type thing, but I think Mutant Absorption, besides just the character throws, I think character throws is the most powerful superpower, but then probably terrain throws, but at least the good ones like Maw's and Magneto's. But besides that, Mutant Absorption is in my like it's the best active superpower in the game. It's freaking nasty. Um, it's there's just so few things in this game that can just drain people out and damage them. It destroys comeback mechanics. And if you've seen any of the Guardians videos, I love Penance Stare, not Cosmic Penance Stare, but the regular Penance Stare. It's my favorite spender in the game. Draining power is just crippling. So it's a really great way to keep your foot down on another team. Um, because if you take your priority with Magneto and you daze another character, right, and then you've got another character around them that might be wanting to bodyguard or something next round, but they don't ever have any power. They can't bypass Maw when you're draining power out of them. They just this synergizes so well in this sort of a brawl, and it forces a brawl on your opponent because they're going to be losing models eventually. If this game just plays out, and let's just say that we all score 3 all rounds, if this researcher gets over here into a corner, the reason that you're bringing things like a charge, right? And the reason why these are so great on B shapes, and I kind of mentioned this, she spends 2 charges across, right? Yep. Toad hopping around. He is going to get a lot farther on these maps than a lot of people would think. If they come in from here, let's say they run across, and now they want to come and help the center of the board. Well, that gives you the opportunity to immediately to wait on your Toad activation, do a hop over there because you generate power from terrain getting thrown. Pop like this. Make sure you can move yourself back away from points, and you can just literally hop around. Now, seeing this and just scoring that there, you can save yourself the trouble. You don't need to hop. So that's something cool to learn. Don't need to hop. So if your opponent is seeing your Toad doing that, he's just not even attacking because he doesn't need to. Imagine how annoying that would be to have to divert even an attack into the guy. And all it takes is for one round for you to be able to do that with Toad, and then you just keep moving this researcher back into your little kind of special corner here. It takes one round of Toad scoring that one, or maybe Rogue scoring this one, and they've lost the 1 point advantage, the parity. It's going to be a 2 point swing, right? You'll score, 4 in a round. They'll only score 2. Provided, I mean, they're going to have to start taking out Mags and Mawneto, or Maw, at that point. It's going to be a tough sell. They're going to have to start trying to get into your models, and you're going to be sitting back there in the corner. So that's what you're really trying to do with this on a B shape. Same theory would apply on an F shape. Take it back to a corner, but when you're playing on an F shape, you kind of have to maintain a bit of a fight here, or here, or maybe back on your side, or here. It all depends on where your opponent's at, and that's where models like Toad again can just be so useful because he doesn't need to score. This is where Mystique can be so useful to this team. Well, he does need to score. He doesn't need to be doing anything offensively. It literally can just spend his day or her day just running around making sure that points are being scored. That's it. If they don't do anything else all game, they're fine because they don't really need to. Maw and Mags will carry the weight for this stuff. Um, Last thing I want to say about this is it works on D shapes obviously as well because again, especially if it's not a pay to flip, if we're talking like a non pay to flip and they have to stay on these points and you just start working something over into a corner like that, it just isn't going to work. They're going to have to abandon them, right? So on a D shape, I would just do the same thing. I would take it off at a bit of an angle and I would just maintain my back point and be able to rotate with like my scoring model, whether it be Mystique or Quicksilver or Toad or somebody like that. And I just rotate over to whichever flank happens to open up, and that'll give me like equal scoring on the secure while I continue to win the researcher, right? So that kind of concludes some things, and also like if for some reason somebody does come up in the center board even a lot early, it's worth saying that this is I think one of those times that you can play Asteroid M like really aggressively. So if you get the ability to go in with Rogue, you double move, you Asteroid M Magneto up there, and now he's sitting on the point, double tapping and just mauling people. Cool, right? I think it's not bad on this. It's just there's so many nasty things you can get up to with these Brotherhood lists, and their models are so versatile, so good that the apple is really your oyster. Obviously, you got to know your matchups. Again, the other viable list on this and the other threat level we could be at here would be 15. Um, I would be extremely confident in at a 17, depending on what you're going into. Maybe you got a Juggernaut. Juggernaut's great on these pay to flips, right? You just run him around. I would have zero problem with using Juggernaut here, but I would also have zero problem using Witch. Because what it allows me to do is I can use her on turn 1 to come over here and flip this point, and then she can stand there. Or she can get on the front side of this and she can start getting ready to blast the other model. My whole goal is to try to just move things down here towards her. Now, if I need to get a little bit of help, I can use Maw to kind of gem her off of this onto this. Juggernaut obviously doesn't need that help. He gets around, does whatever he wants because nothing stops Juggernaut, right? The 16, if I just bring Rogue, well, we can see that she's going to be extremely effective in this little list. That doesn't change just because Toad's not on the board. In some cases, even though an opponent might be wanting to give themselves a chance to be a bit of a more scoring edge or this and that, I don't actually think they would want to face you at a high threat. Um, but at the same time, I really don't think they want to see you at 15. So I think the worst possible threat level to be playing on Research Station is with Magneto is 16, and if you're running Maw, Magneto, and Rogue, if that's bad, then I'm going to call that a W for Brotherhood on this crisis. Um, that being said, I'm gonna wrap up. Hopefully you've found this a little bit coherent. Sorry for the foobar moment there in the middle where I was trying to get fancier on some things than I thought I could or should. It was kind of dumb. I don't know why I tweak and go off and try to do something that I don't know if it's possible or not. Like I'm trying to make a damn guide and it's like, oh, that didn't work. But I guess, when you kind of do some stuff like that, and if you have an opportunity or if you're in the TTS mod like this, or if you're playing around on a map at home, like mess around with these things. Like take a look at the models and see what it is that they do. Um, there's it's like MCP movement tools, like a website. It just literally will tell you like the actual like lengths of the movement tools. I, for the life of me, cannot remember the actual name of it, um, but if you, the more time that you spend around on these maps, kind of experimenting and looking around at this stuff, like the more you're going to figure out a lot of these nuances and come up with stuff of your own. Like this sort of discoveries with Maw is what really opened up my eyes to the model, right? And it had created a lot of opportunities for me to maybe catch more people off guard or to find an otherwise irrelevant model to get into some sort of relevancy within the community and within the meta, as it were, right? Being able to find a way to rediscover and put Magneto back onto a spotlight is pretty cool. And so, with some of the things that have changed within the meta in the last month or so, not only do I think that this list is still relevant despite the gem changes, I think it's better now. It's potentially more flexible. In the past, you would have to play Maw and Magneto together like almost all of the time in order to get the maximum benefit from having a restricted slot, stuck on a character. That just isn't the case anymore, right? So you're a lot more free to say, I don't need to bring Maw into everything. But honestly, on something like Research Station or maybe Gamma, um, some of these things where he can just really utilize that gem and just do nasty, evil stuff on turn one, D shapes, C shapes, highly, highly, highly worth taking a look for. If you want to bring a turret like Scarlet Witch around along with these guys, and if you don't think that they've got a team that's going to do much displacement, he can really help them. Like Witch would absolutely do more damage than Maw if she had his action economy, which she does not, and that's why Maw is better, and also a threat higher, right? But um, you know, it just allows, I guess, for a lot of experimentation. Putting, like I said, the spotlight back on him, Mags. It's fun. You can play this list a lot more interchangeably nowadays. You can play the Mystique thing. You could have played Mystique on this, even though it's not perfect for by any stretch of imagination. But maybe sometimes going wide is something that's called for, right? But a lot of this list, the design behind it, the tactics cards, the crises that are being played, they're for Magneto. And I would highly recommend, under most circumstances, that you choose your extracts if you have priority. And if you're, going up against a Magneto, specialist list, and typically the biggest giveaways, if they've brought Indomitable, you're probably going to see more Magneto than not. Then you probably want to hope that you've got some high scoring extracts, like F shapes and stuff like that. If I see an F shape extract, I'm sometimes going to be tempted to bring a Mystique, or if I've got priority, I'm choosing my extracts like 90% of the time. Okay. But yeah, wrapping up there. Hopefully you guys have found this, helpful. As always, feel free to reach out to me on Discord. I am the Barn Cat. I'll put this down in the description. Um, I'm typically hanging out in the fan server. I'm in all the other Discords. You can leave a comment here. This is just an all-around wholesome, fun kind of Magneto list that I honestly think can, because of some of the changes in the meta. When Malekith is taking another nerf, people are not going to be playing him as much. This list and Magneto on Gamma and Research Station is going to be a very powerful, powerful team. They're the new boogeyman there. Magnetic Refraction is still the most broken TTC in this game. It is phenomenal. Asteroid M, still amazing, right? All these models are still supremely good. So, you pack them all into the middle of the board, give everybody cover, and start blasting them with terrain all around it. Just forget about it, right? So, uh, if you want to talk to me more about this stuff, again, I'll be around. Till then, cheers, go Hawks. Congratulations to the folks over at WTC. Sounds like they ran a really great event. I want to give a shout out to a buddy of mine, Blair Bunky, who was on one of the U.S. teams. Um, and he was out there running spider foes against all these like monster lists and their CGRs, and he managed to pull off a very, very respectable 4-1. So really happy for him, and pleased to see that go well, and really good showing for some of the Swedish teams up there. So really good for them. I think Huggy's team was doing really good. Old Huggy Bear, if you guys have ever seen him, he streams a lot with Dr. Norbert. But yeah, real solid event that was hosted over in Denmark, and a lot of players. Really cool format, team event. Sound like it went pretty well. So I am signing out, folks. Again, thank you. If you made it this far, enjoy.